What if Sung Jinwoo was in Demon Slayer? Alright, let's get right into this timeline. We're basically skipping all of Season 1 again, because Jinwoo isn't involved yet, so everything plays out the same. Tanjiro leaves to sell coal, comes back, finds his whole family dead, grabs Nezuko who's turned into a demon, fights Giyu, and gets told to go train with Urokodaki, the former water Hashira. He trains, passes final selection, kills the hand demon, and goes on his journey defeating demons like the swamp demon and the drum demon. He meets Zenitsu and Inosuke, and we arrive at Mount Natagumo. And this is where I like introducing my new character. Now, you guys loved What If Gojo was in Demon Slayer, so I figured we'd bring in another overpowered character. First, we need to decide which version of Sung Jinwoo we're using. We're going with pre-Jeju Island Arc Jinwoo. That means he does not have Baru yet, since he hasn't completed the S-rank Jeju raid. So, no flying Shadow Ant, but he still has Igris, Iron, Tank, high-level Orcs, and his Dragon Shadow. So, he's still insanely powerful, just not at absolute endgame level yet. In this timeline, Jinwoo is already a Demon Slayer. The Ubuyashiki family recognizes how strong he is and sends him to Mount Natagumo instead of Shinobu and Giyu. They know he's on a completely different level because he can literally summon fighters that rival Hashira level strength. Not everyone in the Demon Slayer Corps knows about his shadow abilities. Only the Ubuyashiki family and a few trusted Hashira. When Jinwoo arrives at Mount Natagumo, he immediately sets up shadow guards around the injured Demon Slayers and anyone he wants to protect, including Tanjiro and Inosuke while they're climbing the mountain. He wipes out nearly every spider demon before anyone else even reaches the top, including the father spider demon. When he finally reaches Rui, he's honestly disappointed. Rui is strong by Demon Slayer standards, but compared to Igris or Iron, Rui isn't that impressive. Jinwoo kills Rui quickly and then uses Air Eyes on him, turning Rui into one of his lower-ranking shadow soldiers. Mission complete. Fast. The Ubuyashiki family realizes Jinwoo finishes missions ridiculously quickly, so instead of sending Rengoku to the Mugen Train, they send Jinwoo. Now, quick side note, Hashira have to patrol large regions of the country every day. That's why they're always busy, but Jinwoo doesn't really need to patrol. He can just assign his shadows to cover entire areas for him. So Jinwoo handles his patrols through his army and heads to Mugen Train. He defeats the speed demon guarding the area and boards the train. Tanjiro, Zenitsu, Inosuke, and Nezuko don't go to Mugen Train in this timeline. Tanjiro still wants to learn about Hinokami Kagura, so he goes wherever Rengoku is instead, probably training or on another mission. Back on the train, Jinwoo instantly senses something is wrong. He recognizes the dream trap almost immediately. Even if he somehow falls into it, he could easily break out, and he could leave Igris or Iron guarding the passengers while he handles things. He finds Enmu, kills Lower Moon 1 quickly, and ends it before things even escalate. But then, Akaza senses an incredibly powerful presence in the area while searching for the blue spider Lily. He sneaks in, attempting to punch straight through Jinwoo. Iron reacts instantly and blocks the attack, just like Jinwoo instructed. Now it's Jinwoo versus Akaza. Jinwoo looks back at Akaza and says, "Now this is a real fight," and he goes all out. He doesn't use Igris or any of his main shadows in the fight. Igris and the others are only there to protect the train passengers, and at this point, the train is already gone anyway, so it's just Jinwoo and Akaza throwing hands. They're boxing it out similar to how Jinwoo fought Baru. Insane speed, non-stop exchanges, pure combat. Akaza immediately realizes Jinwoo's fighting prowess is ridiculous. In the original timeline, Akaza respected Rengoku's strength, but now he can actually see Jinwoo leveling up mid-fight. Jinwoo pulls out his daggers and starts overwhelming him, and the speed difference becomes obvious. Eventually, Jinwoo just gets bored and cuts off Akaza's head. It takes 2 Arise attempts, but Akaza finally becomes Jinwoo's shadow soldier, meaning Jinwoo now has Upper Moon 3 as a shadow, which is honestly insane. He doesn't Arise Enmu though. First, Enmu was fused with the train, and second, Jinwoo doesn't feel like going through all that effort for a shadow that wouldn't even be that strong. Jinwoo reports back to the Ubuyashiki family that he killed both a Lower Moon and an Upper Moon. Back at the Demon Slayer Corps, Jinwoo explains what it's like to fight an Upper Moon and tells the Hashira how powerful Akaza was. Then, he does something crazy. He uses Akaza, Igris, and his other high-level shadows to train the Hashira. Sanemi really wants to fight Akaza one-on-one. He tries it and loses badly. Realistically, maybe only Gyome could possibly handle Akaza, and even that's pushing it. Because of this, the Hashira in this timeline become way stronger since they're constantly training against real Upper Moon level threats. During the Hashira training arc, Jinwoo even lets Tanjiro train with his shadows, placing shadows around the core like he did with S-rank hunters back in his world. Tanjiro learns a lot from this: speed, reaction time, combat experience, and improves much faster. In the Entertainment District arc, the beginning stays mostly the same. Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke still go undercover and still fight Daki and Gyutaro, but Jinwoo is always monitoring things through his shadows. The moment he senses something wrong, he sees through a shadow that that they're fighting an upper moon and that Tengen is severely injured. This is after Tengen stops his heart and loses his arm. Tanjiro is nearly dead. Zenitsu is buried and Inosuke is barely alive. Jinwoo teleports there and uses healing potions on everyone. Yes, even Tengen, and stabilizes them all. Gyutaro tries to interfere, but Jinwoo has Igris and Iron distract Gyutaro and Daki while he heals everyone, especially Inosuke. Once everyone is stabilized, it's Jinwoo versus Gyutaro and Igris versus Daki, and the fight isn't close. Jinwoo defeats Gyutaro easily. Igris handles Daki, and Jinwoo says, "Arise," gaining Upper Moon 6, Gyutaro and Daki as shadows. As for the Upper Moon meeting, it honestly doesn't matter much anymore. The order doesn't even matter, because at this rate, they're all going to die anyway. In the Swordsmith Village arc, Jinwoo still has shadows placed everywhere, so he sees what's happening, and probably wouldn't interfere at first. He might show up near the end to clean things up, or possibly arise Upper Moon 4 and 5, but he honestly might not even care enough to bother, so the Swordsmith Village arc mostly ends the same. Mitsuri survives, Muichiro survives, both awaken their Demon Slayer marks, Genya survives, and the arc plays out mostly unchanged. Now with Muichiro and Mitsuri awakening their Demon Slayer marks, we head into the Hashira training arc, and this time, it's even more intense for Tanjiro, because they already had a sort of training period after the Mugen Train arc as well. This time, Jinwoo takes a major role in teaching, since the core is low on Hashira, and Muichiro would probably rather focus on his own training instead of instructing others, so Jinwoo basically fills that role. A lot of the Hashira would actually prefer training with Jinwoo's shadow soldiers anyway, because it's far more useful for real combat. Jinwoo has soldiers ranging from E rank strength all the way to S rank level, so even the weakest Demon Slayer in the core has someone appropriate to train against. Because of that, the entire core becomes much stronger, and even if someone defeats one of the shadows, it just comes back again later, since it's made from Jinwoo's mana. Over time, fighters like Gyome, Sanemi, and Giyu, the three strongest Hashira, become extremely used to fighting Upper Moon level threats, because they've been constantly sparring against Akaza, Upper Moon 6, and possibly even shadows from Upper Moon 4 and 5. Because of that, they start reaching almost Upper Moon level strength themselves, and most likely unlock their Demon Slayer marks during this intense training before the Infinity Castle arc even begins. Then Ubuyashiki begins his plan. Muzan arrives. The Ubuyashiki mansion explodes, and Muzan pulls everyone into the Infinity Castle. Jinwoo immediately spreads his shadow soldiers all across the battlefield to help the other Demon Slayers and keep them alive. Since Akaza is already dead, Tanjiro and Giyu end up going to different areas. Tanjiro likely deals with lower demons, while Giyu and Sanemi make their way toward the Upper Moon to battle to help Shinobu. Meanwhile, Jinwoo drops directly in front of Kokushibo. Jinwoo may initially send Akaza and Igris to distract Kokushibo, because even though Akaza once lost a blood battle to him, he's still incredibly strong and can keep coming back as long as Jinwoo supplies mana. But Jinwoo would probably want the fight for himself, since he already defeated Baru one-on-one and is confident he can handle Kokushibo as well. The battle becomes difficult because of Kokushibo's regeneration and swordsmanship, but eventually Kokushibo begins remembering his brother and realizing his mistakes and stops regenerating. Much like the original story, he eventually gives up and dies. Jinwoo then attempts to arise him. It would take time because Kokushibo's will is extremely strong and he may resist, but there's still a high chance Jinwoo eventually succeeds and gains Kokushibo as a shadow. In the Upper Moon, to fight Shinobu arrives first, but Jinwoo's shadows protect her before she can be eaten or fatally injured, and soon Giyu, Sanemi, Inosuke, and Kanao arrive, and together they defeat Doma. Zenitsu still fights Kaigaku and wins with his 7th form, just like in the original timeline. Yushiro, Mitsuri, and Obanai deal with Nakime. Yushiro briefly takes control of the Infinity Castle. Muzan notices and kills Nakime, and Yushiro moves everyone out of the castle for the Sunrise Countdown arc. Jinwoo might try to arise Doma before the castle collapses, but it doesn't matter much because Jinwoo wants to fight Muzan himself. In the original timeline, many Hashira were nearly killed when Muzan blasted everyone back with a massive attack, but in this timeline, Jinwoo uses his shadow mages like he did in the Jeju Island raid in solo leveling to shield the Hashira from the attack, and he also heals them with potions. When Jinwoo finally reaches Muzan on the battlefield, the Hashira step back and let him fight alone. Jinwoo drags Muzan out toward the sunlight and eventually defeats him. Tanjiro is never turned into the Demon King because he was never close enough during the battle. Jinwoo never develops the Demon Slayer mark, so he won't die at 25, but those who awaken the mark like Muichiro, Mitsuri, Giyu, and Sanemi would still eventually die at 25. Rengoku survives in this timeline because Akaza died earlier and there were fewer Upper Moons left to fight. He likely never awakens the mark, so he lives a full life. In the end, Shinobu and Giyu get together, Mitsuri and Obanai get together, and most of the characters survive much longer than they did in the original story, making this one of the better timelines overall. If you guys liked this timeline, make sure to check out What If Tanjiro had the solo leveling power system, since that's that's one of my favorite videos I've made. And also check out What If Sasuke Was in Demon Slayer, because that one was really fun to make. And make sure to join the channel down below for early access to my videos.